My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Well, we are continuing our thematic study of the resurrection in 1 Corinthians 15. We've been involved in a word study of all the words that Paul uses when he speaks of the resurrection of, quote, the body, which is the body of 1 Corinthians 15:35. And we have shown that the words that Paul uses, some of them are never ever used to speak of a human body at all. So unless Paul is radically departing from the normal usage of those words, and let's be honest, a writer has that liberty if he is defining those things. If he is telling us that he is using those words differently from the way it's used normally in all other ways, if context absolutely demands that, then guess what? We have to honor that. But, as we have shown, there are other contexts which speak of resurrection, they speak of the body, they speak of flesh, etc., and they use these very same words that are in 1 Corinthians 15. In other words, we've got these other passages using the same words, speaking of resurrection, and yet those passages simply absolutely cannot be speaking of the raising of a biological body. I'm thinking, of course, of Romans chapter 7 and 8. Okay, we come now to a further consideration of these words and these ideas. And, you know, there's something here that has long fascinated me. I'm still in the process of researching it. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul says, speaking of the contrast between the natural and the spiritual, he says, the first man, that's Adam, is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven. Now, if we are simply talking about biological bodies, then something is wrong. Because Hebrews chapter 2 tells us, for as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he, Christ, also likewise took part of the same. So Christ had a totally human biological body, just like Adam had a totally biological body. This is not a contrast between substance of bodies. He will go ahead to say, the first man was made a living soul, the second was made a life-giving spirit. So once again, the focus is not on strictly biological substance. It is on stance, it is on nature, it is on, how do I express this, realm. Because if his focus is strictly and solely on biological substance, then we have to say, well, the first man, Adam, was a biological man. Flesh and blood, flesh and bone. Jesus, through his incarnation, the Word became flesh and dwelt among men. He also himself likewise took part of flesh and blood. Biological substance is not the totality of the issue here, folks. And that will become exceedingly apparent as we continue Paul's discussion of the image of the first man and the image of the second. And we will talk about that on the flip side. You don't want to miss it. We will see you on the flip side with a discussion of the image of Adam and the image of Christ. We'll see you there.